Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Thursday, February 19th. It is 10 a.m. Eastern, and we actually have some NBA basketball to talk about for this evening. We have a loaded 10-game slate in the NBA. I have a bunch of picks for it, so if you came here looking for some bets, you came to the right place, and we'll get right into them. I have 4 that I already like for tonight. I have a couple leans, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the bigger games as well that I don't have picks for, but overall, we'll get through a lot of these games in the card, and we'll start with the Rockets taking on the Hornets at 7 p.m. Eastern. This is a game that's actually the first leg of a parlay that I like, and what I actually have here is the Rockets on the money line over the Hornets, parlayed with the Knicks on the money line over the Pistons. That's Houston winning on the road in Charlotte, and New York taking care of business at home against Detroit. And the reasons that I like both of these teams, I'll start with the Rockets, and it's the injury reports getting cleaner for Houston. Obviously, there's no Fred VanVleet, no Steven Adams. Those guys are going to be out the remainder of the year, and that absolutely kills this Rockets team. But at the same time, the Hornets aren't healthy right now. They are missing Moussa Diabate and Miles Bridges as part of that suspension for the brawl that took place when they took on the Pistons last week or a little bit over a week ago. And Kobe White, who they traded for at the deadline, still out with a bad calf. So when you kind of factor in those 3 guys missing, the fact that you traded Colin Sexton to get Kobe White, you're talking about a shorthanded rotation, and you're also missing some really key pieces because Bridges is a good shot maker for this team, decent rebounder, but Diabate is like the heart and soul of Charlotte with his ability to kind of create second chances, protect the rim defensively. I think that Ryan Kalkbrenner is a really good rookie, but I would not be surprised if he gets into foul trouble in this game, and then, the Hornets are forced to either play small or play, a big that they're really not comfortable in. I just kind of think that those absences are going to be a little bit hard for them to overcome against the Rockets team that is well rested. And I do kind of see this being a game where Alperen Şengün just dominates around the basket. And then you add in what Kevin Durant can do against a team that doesn't defend the wing all that well. I just really like this spot for Houston, especially as like a bit of an older team with Durant in there coming off like the All-Star break where, nobody really had to play that hard or work that hard. It was a day, a week of just days off mostly. And, everybody's going to come into this, second half of the season feeling pretty refreshed outside of players that are already injured. And I do think that favors the Rockets quite a bit. I have been very high on the Charlotte team, but missing Diabate is just a killer. And I do think that getting them at the price that you're getting them, even on the road, it is pretty worth it. And then when you talk about the Knicks taking on the Pistons, it's similar because it's a New York team that will be going up against a Detroit team that's missing Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart as part of that same brawl, the suspension from that same brawl. And that is just going to be very difficult for them to manage against New York, because say what you want about Karl Anthony Towns and how, soft he could be or weak he could be defensively, he can guard a bad, backup center. And Mitchell Robinson getting to work on the glass against a team that's missing 2 very tough defensive rebounders, big bodies, and just overall physical players, he's going to completely dominate the offensive board. So the Knicks, even if they kind of struggle to create offense against this, rock solid, borderline elite Pistons defense, I don't want to call them elite without Duren and Stewart. I'm not sure that's where they would be if they didn't have those guys over the course of the season, but should still be a very good unit even without those guys. But even if the Knicks struggle to kind of create efficient offense, they're going to get enough second opportunities to just kind of continue to put the ball in the hole. And I do think that as well, with Jalen Duren being out, a big piece of kind of that pick and roll partnership with him and Cade Cunningham, you're putting a lot on Cade's shoulders. And I just think that if the Knicks only have to prepare for defending Cade and kind of staying at home on some of Detroit's off-ball shooters, which are very good now that they went out and got Kevin Huerter at the deadline, I still think New York can be trusted to win this game. So this parlay is actually plus 145, and I think there's a really good chance this hits. I think that there's more like a 50% chance this hits. So I just thought that the value on this play was kind of out of this world, and it really jumped off the page to me when I was looking at the slate for tonight. So that's where I went with that. Another game I wanted to talk about, but I do not have a pick for. Was probably going to skip this one until my producer, Michael Cohen, who does awesome work on this podcast, asked me if I thought that James Harden would go either, over his points or assists in a meeting with the Nets. The Cavaliers are hosting the Nets at 7 p.m. Eastern. This is a game where Cleveland is a 16.5-point favorite. Totals 229.5. And, Evan Mobley actually will be returning for Cleveland tonight. So we're going to see a Cavaliers team that's like damn close to being full strength. The only real key absence right now is Max Strus. So I'm really excited just to see what Cleveland looks like. The problem with going with a Harden prop in this game is that, it is a spread of 16.5. That means that the odds makers believe there's a pretty good chance Cleveland busts this game open, winning by 17 plus. If that happens, you're probably not going to see Harden in the fourth quarter. So what I suggested to Michael, and I do think it's actually a pretty strong play, is Harden over 2.5 assists in the first quarter, which is minus 128 as of the time of recording this. I also like that because Mobley's back. I just feel like Harden is a really smart player. He's not going to go out there trying to hijack the ball, looking to score. I think that what he's going to do with Mobley out there is just kind of run pick and rolls, find Allen, find Mobley, and just make everybody else comfortable, because I've said it before, in regards to this trade, Harden is a player that can go out and get you 30 if he needs to, or he could just turn into the best and most cerebral passer in the league. We have seen both versions of him. We saw both versions in Los Angeles. There was a time where he was a lower shot volume, higher, pass happy point guard. And I do think that might be closer to his role with the Cavaliers, just kind of making plays off the dribble, getting other guys involved, and then maybe later in a game, that's when they lean on his shot making. But I do expect to see kind of more of the 18 and 12 Harden than the 25 and 7 Harden in Cleveland. And I think that with Mobley coming back, we're going to see a concerted effort from him to get his teammates involved, make sure everybody's comfortable, and make this process of reincorporating Mobley as smooth as humanly possible. So don't have anything in this game, but do have a lean to Harden on the over on assists in first quarter. Moving on now to a game that I do have a play on. It's the Hawks going to Philly and taking on the 76ers at 7 p.m. Eastern. This is a game with a somewhat crowded injury report. Atlanta's only going to be missing Jonathan Kuminga, they acquired from Golden State at the trade deadline. We haven't seen him. He's dealing with an injury. Not sure when he'll be back. But for the Sixers, no Joel Embiid. They are dealing with some type of injury with his knee. It does still appear to be just kind of a management phase. It's nothing new and overall concerning long term, but it is something that they're dealing with swelling. They want to get it down. They want to make sure he's, good to go when they finally put him on the floor. They don't want to rush him out there because Embiid has been so good this season that sacrificing his health at any point the rest of the year is going to be, very, very dangerous when you're talking about a Philly team that has the potential to make a run in the Eastern Conference. I did a whole Eastern Conference kind of preview and look back podcast on Tuesday where I said, look, there's probably 4 teams I have ahead of them. But if this team heads into the postseason with a healthy Embiid and Paul George and nobody else is dealing with anything long-term, they can beat anyone in a series and they can win multiple series. And it wouldn't shock anybody, at least I don't think, if they were to beat a team that ends up making the NBA Finals, just in terms of what they have on paper, what they have in that backcourt, and what they looked like this season. So I just think that, playing it safe with Embiid is not the worst move, but there will be no Embiid, there will be no Paul George tonight, and that is why this spread has come down quite a bit, and you now see Philly as a 1.5-point favorite, as I said. But I still like the 76ers, and I took them on the money line last night. I posted it to the VSiN Pro Picks page at minus 118. I did write an article over at VSiN.com about being very careful the rest of the season about betting things in advance. But this was a game where I just knew Embiid was going to be out, knew Paul George was going to be out. I don't think there's going to be any kind of funny business until tip-off. So this is what we're dealing with, the rosters that we see right now are the rosters that are going to be out there. And I just kind of think that this Hawks team came into the All-Star break struggling. They had lost 3 straight and 5 of their previous 7 games before that. They had also failed to cover in 4 straight games, so they weren't exactly like competitive in losses. But overall, I just don't like this Atlanta team. Like I've talked about that a lot on this podcast. I don't think that they're good enough defensively to have like made the move to like trade Trae Young to Washington, citing that like maybe we could be an elite defensive team with the guys we have in place. And then offensively, they're absolutely terrible without Young. So the product right now is since January 1st, they are 10-11. They're 26th in the NBA in offensive rating, scoring 111.9 points per 100 possessions. And they're 13th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing 114 points per 100 possessions. That defense is not good enough to make up for that bad offense. And I just kind of think that, like, even without Embiid, we've seen at times this season, the Philly backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe is capable of going out and lighting up any opposing backcourt that can't guard them. And for as good as some of the defenders are in this Hawks backcourt, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels, both great perimeter defenders, but I do think that they're a little too slow to consistently stay in front of Maxey and Edgecombe. So I just think that Philly is going to be able to create offensively in this game. And I'll also throw in that the Hawks are just 33-54 straight up under Quinn Snyder as road underdogs. Also under Snyder, they have not been much better when getting a lot of time to rest. They're 3-8 straight up and 3-8 against the spread when playing off of 3+ days of rest under Snyder. And that kind of speaks to something that I've talked about Atlanta throughout the course of this season. And that's that I liked Snyder in Utah, but this has not worked out in Atlanta. And I've just not been impressed with anything that I've seen from him from a coaching standpoint, whether that's X's and O's, game preparation, anything. I do not think he's managed this job very well. And I just don't have a lot of faith in Atlanta to get the job done against Philly, even with Philly missing one of the most important players in basketball in Joel Embiid. So the 76ers money line at -118, that's a play for me. If you're looking to sharpen your edge this NBA season, VSiN Pro is where to start. Get advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights used by serious bettors every single day. Try it out for only $9.99 for your first month and see what smart bettors are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. I've said this already on Twitter this week, but like this is one of the best weeks of the year, the best months of the year to use the $9.99 intro offer, because not only are you getting like all of our NBA stuff, you're also getting our March Madness stuff, which is coming very, very shortly. We'll have conference tournament previews for every single conference coming to the website very soon. We'll have our March Madness guide out soon. And also a few days ago, Adam Burke, my managing editor, and Jensen Lewis, host of VSiN by the Books, also, you know, a former MLB pitcher, they put out an awesome product with our MLB betting guide. So you get that too. Like, it's just a great time to take advantage of that $9.99 offer. Then hopefully we'll keep you around, or you can take advantage of a really, really strong price on our annual subscription, which is available right now. But a very good time to become a VSiN Pro. Strongly suggest heading over to vsin.com and seeing what we have out there for you. Let's move on now to the Celtics at the Warriors. This is a 10 p.m. Eastern tip, and this is a game where I'm also going back to another two-leg parlay, and it starts with Boston needing to beat Golden State in Golden State, and then I also have Orlando to beat Sacramento. This parlay is -114, and man, this is another one that I have a lot of confidence in. I only ended up playing it to win one unit just because I was a little scared off by how low the spread is in that Celtics Warriors game. It almost feels like a bit of a trap. So I'm expecting a really strong effort from Golden State. But with that game, there's only no Jason Tatum for Boston, which is like, you know, that means this team is very healthy, and Tatum's going to be back soon, which I talked a lot about on Tuesday. But this is a very healthy Celtics team going against a Warriors team that is missing Stephen Curry, missing Jimmy Butler for the rest of the season. And while Kristaps Porzingis is questionable this evening and maybe he plays, I don't know how you can expect Golden State to beat Boston without Curry. I just think that the Celtics are, if anything, like weaker defensively than offensively, but like offensively, I expect them to just kind of run this Warriors team off the court. I don't know how Golden State can keep up with Boston and what might end up being a track meet. So I just think that this Celtics team really should win this game. And the Curry situation is a little concerning because Steve Kerr did say that Curry is going to end up needing another MRI potentially on his knee because something isn't feeling right. He said, Curry's, the type of player that knows when something's wrong. Hopefully Curry doesn't miss too much more time, but being out for this game against the Celtics seems like it could be almost a doomsday scenario. I don't see Golden State finding a way to win this game against Boston. I think Boston's just kind of too well coached, too good, and just kind of too tough for Golden State. I know that the Warriors are going to try to win this game with toughness. Don't think that's going to work against the Celtics. And like I said, it's going to come down to shot making at some point. I trust Boston to do it. Don't trust Golden State to do it. The other game, Sacramento is on my do not bet list for the rest of the season. Wrote that up at VSiN.com, a whole article on, tips for betting on tanking with, that being a huge problem in the NBA moving forward. There are 8 teams in the league that really have zero interest in winning games the rest of the season. The Kings are one of them. As of right now, they would be picking number 1 if there was no draft lottery. So if they just continue to lose games, they are going to have a really good shot at ending up with one of the best draft selections in this draft. There are 3 players in this draft that many consider to be franchise changers, AJ Debonsa, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer. And then there's also a 4th in Caleb Wilson for UNC that a lot of people think has the potential to maybe join that group, but maybe a little bit further down the line, he takes a little bit more work or something. But still, a lot of talent to be had in this draft. The Kings do not want to sacrifice their draft position. And while they can't guarantee they'll be number 1 by being the worst team in the league, it helps to be the worst team in the league, even if kind of recent history suggests it doesn't. And you're seeing that with some of the decisions that have been made with this Sacramento team. Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis, both out for the year now, going under the knife, getting surgery. Also tonight, you have Dylan Cardwell and DeAndre Hunter out. And the Cardwell one is the one that I actually think is like the sign to just kind of hammer Orlando. It's like the ultimate buy sign for the Magic to be a team that you throw into moneyline parlays tonight, because even with Franz Wagner being out for Orlando, which is a significant injury and one that actually has, some real importance in the Eastern Conference, because the Magic are a team that they have been disappointing this season. And if they had any chance to kind of right that ship the rest of the way, all it was going to take was like time on the floor with Wagner and Banchero and Suggs, all 3 of them together, everybody just kind of getting comfortable with one another. But now they're not going to have that. But even still, no Wagner, there's enough talent for Orlando to go out and win this game on the road. Like I said, this Kings team, at least the front office and coaching staff, not very interested in winning. You obviously can't make the players on the court, feel that way, and they are going to go out there and try to win. But I don't know how you do it. And I think that Cardwell is actually a really important piece here, because while he is not a well-known player and not the greatest player either, he's a player that brings a ton of energy on both ends of the floor. And on those nights where it's like you feel it, like we're not a good team, the crowd doesn't care, all of that, he comes into the game, he hits the offensive boards, he blocks some shots, he shows a ton of emotion and kind of wakes everybody up, his teammates and the crowd. So not having him out there could be really tough against an Orlando team that at the very least we know plays very hard every single night. So I think that the Magic end up winning this game. So like I said, it's Celtics money line over the Warriors, Magic money line over the Kings. That's -114. I skipped a game kind of in the same, a little bit before the Celtics Warriors game tips. Suns Spurs, do not want to skip it completely, just because probably the game of the night, at least in my opinion, that's the game of the night. I know I am a Suns fan, but game tips at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The Spurs are 7.5 point favorites, totals 229.5. And this is a game where Phoenix is really healthy. Dylan Brooks is suspended because he did get too many technical fouls, and that's been something that's been tough to watch as a Suns fan throughout the course of this season. The Dylan Brooks experience overall has been very positive, but like the technicals, if you could just tone it down a little, just a tiny bit, I don't know. I know that Draymond Green is a player that somewhat similar, and in the past he's said that, towing that line is what makes him so great. So maybe Brooks can't do it, but like, yeah, not having him for this game is going to hurt. But still, the Suns will have Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, like all of these guys that were banged up heading into the All-Star break, even though Booker was back and Green was back. Like they're all on the floor tonight except for Brooks. I'm not sure there's going to be a heavy minutes restriction on Jalen Green. I guess we'll see. But he did have a week to just kind of rest up get that hamstring right and get ready for the second half of the season. And Grayson Allen being back gives them that, perimeter firepower that they've been lacking all year. Like, this is a team that has been top 10 in the league defensively for a very long time, and they've been flirting with top 10 offensively, sitting down at 14 in the league when looking at adjusted offensive rating. Now that they have all these guards that can make shots, we should see the best version of the offense moving forward. Obviously, Brooks being out hurts a little. He's a 20-point per game guy that has been really good in isolation this season. But still, I think that this is going to be a good version of the Suns we see tonight. And I am expecting this game to be close. I'm not taking the 7.5 because I do worry a little bit about the defense with no Brooks. But, man, I do think there's a chance this ends up being a really fun game to watch. And I think we'll learn a lot about Phoenix over the next couple of weeks, because I'm really high on this team, compared to where the expectations were heading into the season. But we've almost passed that point. The rest of the year for the Suns is about figuring out, can they get into the top 6 and finish in the top 6? And can they potentially beat somebody in the opening round? I mean, they're not going to beat the Thunder if they faced them in the first round, but can they beat a depleted Nuggets team, a Denver team that goes into the playoffs missing Aaron Gordon if he doesn't come back, healthy? Can they beat this Spurs team if that ends up being a 3-6 matchup? I wouldn't rule out them giving a real scare to anybody besides the Thunder in the first round if they could continue to kind of make some strides, progress a little bit, and get Green comfortable, because I think with Green in the lineup, there's a chance this ends up being a top 10 offense, which would give them both a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And any team like that is a scary team when you're looking at the rest of the season. The final game that I want to talk about and I have a pick for is the Nuggets at the Clippers at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. This is a game where Denver is a 4.5-point road favorite. Totals 226.5. Denver, like I said before, no Aaron Gordon, also no Peyton Watson. Those are two huge losses given what those guys do just in terms of defensive ability and athleticism on the wing. And then you are getting Cam Johnson back, which helps. That's somebody just with an absolute sniper from 3-point range. That's really the best way you could put it. I know he didn't shoot that well early in the year, but he was getting comfortable before he got hurt. I think he's going to finish the year really strong. So that's a nice boost for Denver to get him back. But still, no Gordon, no Watson. That hurts. But the Clippers still remain without Darius Garland, who they acquired in that James Harden trade. So that means that this team is missing a really important piece, a borderline all-star. And it's going to be hard for the Clippers to go out and beat a good Nuggets team, even at home, without a player like that. But I wouldn't rule it out just because Kawhi Leonard has been on an absolute heater for 2-3 months now. He has been the best player in the entire NBA. That includes Nikola Jokic. I know Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. I would not even welcome an argument for anybody else, even as somebody that believes that SGA is probably going to win back-to-back MVPs. The Joker is my favorite player in the league in terms of just actual production and all that. Not my favorite player in the league personally. I don't know why I said it like that, but I think he's the best player in the league. I don't think anybody else is close, to be honest. But I do think Kawhi has been the best player for 2-3 months, and I think he's proven he can lead this Clippers team to wins, even without players around him. And playing at home, I would not rule it out. But the play that I made in this game is Benedict Mathurin over 14.5 points at -113. This is another one that I jumped on last night, was a little bit nervous about the number moving, but he scored 16 points in 31 minutes in his most recent game, which was just his second game with Los Angeles. He's had an extra week to kind of get comfortable in Ty Lue's system and just kind of get himself ready to get back out there. And I do think that the matchup is perfect for him because, like I said, no Gordon, no Watson. Those are two kind of wing stoppers, one for bigger wings, one for smaller wings, but still two guys that you just would like to have out there against an athlete like Mathurin. And if it's going to be Christian Brown defending him, I just don't know if I see that being the greatest matchup for him. So I think that Mathurin is going to be able to get his buckets in this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going for 20 plus here. So if you want to sprinkle that, go for it. I didn't end up doing it. I just took 14.5, kind of easing my way into things a little bit after the All-Star break. Just kind of want to see how things look. But I do think he's going to play well here because Denver is a bottom 5 team when talking about spot up defense. And Mathurin is, a pretty lethal shooter. This team is also, this Nuggets team, 17th in the league defending inside 10 feet, where Mathurin scores 36% of his points. And Mathurin is just a blur in transition because he's big, he's athletic, he can finish. I think that's going to hurt Denver, which is just 18th in the league guarding in transition. So I don't think that what we saw was fluky last game from Mathurin scoring 16. I think we'll see a lot more games like that moving forward. And I will not be surprised if, he kind of plays his way into the future in Los Angeles. Like, I know that they're trying to save their cap space for a few years down the road, but if they could bring Mathurin back on like a team-friendly deal and just kind of lock him down a little bit, maybe 3-4 years, I just wouldn't be surprised if they do it, because Mathurin might be somewhat disappointing compared to like what he looks like he can be. But at the same time, you're talking about a player that could really put the ball in the hole, does not kill you defensively. He's not the greatest defender, but like just based on size and athleticism alone, he can kind of help in a certain like way and in a team setting. And I actually would expect that if he spends some time with the Clippers, he gets a lot better defensively under Ty Lue as a good defensive coach. But I do think Mathurin will continue to play well the rest of the season. I think it starts right out the gates, right after the All-Star break. But yeah, those are the only games I have picks on. There are a lot of just like ugly games on this card. I mean, there's a Pacers-Wizards game where like 7 p.m. Eastern, that's like a tank-off game, like the ultimate tank-off game, because I wrote that column at VSiN.com mentioning the 8 teams that are all looking to lose. Those are 2 of them. So someone has to win that game. I fear for Indiana that it's going to be them, because they've actually been winning a little bit too much lately, and they need to start losing soon because their pick is only top 4 protected. But that game is going to be ugly. You have the Raptors going to Chicago and taking on the Bulls, where the Bulls traded all of their good contributors at the trade deadline. Just a lot of slop on the card tonight, so you have to be careful out there. But do have 4 picks for this evening. Still think it's going to be a night where we can profit. But before we recap those picks, attention any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. My boss, Bill Adee, does a really good job with that newsletter, just getting you up to date on everything that's happening around every sport. But you do occasionally get some stuff from me in there. Actually, this morning, I did some kind of like themes to look at the second half of the season after the All-Star break. So occasionally you'll get even more writing from me in there than you do get over at vsin.com. So definitely sign up for the newsletter. It's free, doesn't hurt you at all. And like I said, you get everything for like every sport. It's a great, great tool for sports bettors. So do that. But let's recap our Thursday best bets for tonight. The ones that we have right now. Would not be shocked if I end up adding something. Might even add that Harden play. I've kind of been thinking about it. Like the wheels are turning in my head, kind of think it might end up hitting. So might end up adding Harden over 2.5 first quarter assists in that game against the Nets tonight. But the 4 picks that I do have officially already, I have Rockets money line versus Hornets and Knicks money line versus Pistons in a 2-leg parlay at plus 145. I have the 76ers money line at minus 118 versus the Hawks. I have another 2-leg parlay with the Celtics money line over the Warriors and the Magic money line over the Kings at minus 114. And then Benedict Mathurin over 14.5 points at minus 113 versus the Nuggets. It's those 4 picks for me for today. Everything will be up at vsin.com soon. I'm going to write up, by sides and totals. I'm going to write up my player props. And like I said, maybe I'll add some stuff over there, but also you'll get Steve Makinen's NBA work. And we were supposed to have Jonathan Von Tobel on today, but his kids are sick. Hopefully they feel better soon, but hopefully we will be joined by Kelly Bidlin tomorrow to go through the Friday slate. Always love having Kelly on, and I'll be on Kelly's show today. So it's a bit of a home and home for us, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight's slate. Excited to see some real basketball again. The All-Star game was kind of fun. It wasn't as bad as recent years. An All-Star Saturday night, I always love it, even if the dunk contest continues to get worse and worse. Always an evening I look forward to and always have fun watching it, but definitely excited for the real stuff to start again. And I am really looking forward to the second half of the season, even with all these teams tanking. There's the other side of that, which no one really talks about, which is like the best teams also need to kind of compete for playoff positioning, iron out some like chemistry stuff, and just to continue to get better, because this postseason, I really think it's going to deliver some fireworks. I know that everyone thinks it's like a foregone conclusion that it'll be the Thunder beating a bad Eastern Conference team in the finals. Let's see. I think that there's some good Eastern Conference teams. I think the Cavaliers have a chance of actually winning the NBA Finals. Talked about that on Tuesday as well. And I do think that the Western Conference playoffs will be way more competitive than people think. I don't have OKC as like a head and shoulders above everybody else. I think there's some really good teams in that West. And I think that there's 4 of them. I think Minnesota is one of them. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to the second half of the year, but let's look forward to tonight's slate. Let's pick some winners, and then let's come back Friday, and hopefully we finish the week off strong with Kelly Bidlin on the Friday episode of Hardwood Handicappers.